Anyway, so welcome to our employer panel. I'm going to make my comments very, very brief. I would like to introduce the panelists, if I may. We have Thea from Dignity Health. We have Fernando from Amazon. And we have Sergio from Disney. How this is going to work is that Jackie and I will ask questions of the panelists. In the meantime, we would like to open it up to all you attendees to ask questions also. So if you could put your questions into the chat box, and then Lewis will monitor those questions, and then he will ask those questions of the panelists. When you ask those questions, if you want to ask all the panelists, please make sure that you put all, ask the question. If you want to specifically ask a question to one of the panelists, please sure to mention their name as part of that question. All right. So without any further ado, because I know that we're running a little late, let's start. So Jackie, do you want to start us off?
Absolutely. Okay. Sergio, this is for you. What resources do you use to develop the pool of qualified candidates?
As far as resources go, I want to back up a little bit, just because I sit within a different type of role within Disney. So I'm actually going through the process now of hiring somebody. So it's definitely very timely because I'm going through the process now. So I work with our human resource department and our recruitment team to figure out who are the best candidates. I'm also an educator as well. So I'm a adjunct faculty for Pasadena City College, for Loyola Marymount, and most recently, I'm going to be teaching at Cal State Long Beach. I guess the biggest resource for me, and I'm lucky to be in this situation, are my students, because I have developed a rapport with them. They've communicated their career interests, and they're just a great pool of candidates that I'm able to link in with them and get them into the right hands as far as resumes go. Another great resource that I use as well is LinkedIn. And I can't stress that enough. It's not only about being on LinkedIn, but it's about the information you're sharing on LinkedIn, making sure that we're educating and training professionals on how to make themselves known. There are things like keywords that they need to be cognizant of to make them very marketable. So those are kind of the two main resources that I look at when I'm hiring new individuals into the organization.
Awesome. Thank you.
Okay. Thea, can I ask you a question?
I'm ready.
Fantastic. Question is this: we've gone through a very traumatic year with the COVID. How has this impacted your company and possibly maybe your hiring practices over this past year?
Boy, haven't we? It's been a real challenge. We've, as you can see, I'm a remote now, although I do go into the facilities. We're starting to see more of our nurses retire. We're actually seeing HR professionals that have had it with COVID, and they're retiring. So we've really shifted our business in a lot of different ways. Our surgery, we weren't doing surgery. So some of our OR nurses who were very mature, and I say mature because some of them were 60 into their 70s, have decided, hey, it's time to retire. So now we are in crisis mode. And we're trying to fill these positions, not only RNs, we're also trying to fill like bioengineers. So we haven't slowed down at all in the healthcare sector. We've brought in probably since last when last March, we brought in about 2,000 employees. And I have to give a big shout out to some of the schools that we've partnered with. And they brought in individuals to do temperature checks as people come in, our employees come in. So we didn't have that position before. We had to hire over 100 individuals. They've helped us with our vaccine clinics. So we're trying to partner with schools to help us train individuals. So nothing's really changed except more retirements sooner than later. In healthcare, we are not prepared.
Thank you. Louis, do you have a question?
No, we don't have any questions at the moment from the chat.
Okay, awesome. We'll keep it going. Hi, Fernando. How are you? Good. So with
Doing
a large,
good. Oh,
awesome. So with a large company that you work for and all these different positions that you guys have available, what's the average level of education that's required?
good question. So all we require for our entry-level positions is just a high school diploma and being 18 and over.
Okay, awesome. And just to piggyback on that, do you hire directly into management? And if so, what's the education requirement for that?
I do not hire directly into management. That is a corporate recruiting team that hires for those higher level positions. But it's just a various level of experience and education that requires, depending on what management position you apply for. Some are good enough with an associate's degree. Others require a bachelor's degree, master's degree. Just depends on what level in the management position you want to come into. We have, process assistants, we have area managers, we have operations managers, finance managers, a lot of different levels that require a lot of different experience and educational backgrounds. So it's a little bit of an open-ended question, but for the starters, a bachelor's degree in management will be sufficient.
Okay, awesome, great, thank you.
Yeah, you're welcome.
I have a question for all three panelists. Tell us about your interview process. How does that work for your organization? Let's start with Sergio.
Yeah, as I mentioned, I'm actually going through the process now. So essentially we have a recruiting team at Disney, and I can only speak, and I'm sure that it is the same way with other divisions within Disney. So there's a recruiting team that funnels candidates. So I sit with the recruiting team. I tell them what type of employees I'm looking for, or what type of candidates, that I'm looking for. I put together a job description, and as you can imagine, it goes through a huge vetting process to make sure that it's on par with, and making sure that there's consistency throughout the organization. And then the floodgates open, right? So the job gets posted, and then what happens at weekly is that I get hundreds of resumes in my inbox based on that filter that I've created with recruiting the human resource team. So as those come through, I have to sift through all the resumes, and there are keywords that I always look for. I mean, I don't have a system. It's literally printing them out or looking at them, through my computer. And for depending on the position. So for instance, it's an entry-level position. I'm always looking for leadership qualities. A lot of times I'm not looking for a tremendous amount of experience, but I'm also looking for the intangibles, like, I talked about leadership or being proactive or extracurricular activities, community engagement. Those are so important as you're looking for quality employees. Because I've been at Disney for 15 years and I've done a lot of hiring. So I've seen it happen more than once where on paper they look great or just by their experience, but it's really some of those extracurricular experiences that are gonna get my attention or get a hiring manager's attention. And once they go through that, then the funnel gets more narrow. And I bring in, for the most part, there's a phone screening process, And then if they, pass the I guess that gate, and then there's a hiring process. And we don't like to take up a lot of in-person or Zoom time with folks. So we typically select the top 3 to 5 candidates, and then they go through an interview process at that point in time. And it's a pretty quick process. We select 3 to 4 internal employees to help interview the candidates, and then we make a decision at that point in time.
Thank you. Thea, what is your process?
We have typically, because I sit in talent acquisition, depending on the hiring manager, we do an intake, and then we will post the job to Indeed, and then it goes out to LinkedIn, Glassdoor, all the regular job agents, and we'll either screen or send over based on what the resume looks like, and send that to the hiring manager, and then the hiring manager will tell us who is interviewed. Now, we have done only Zoom. There's been a few that we have brought into the facility based on the position, more the directors, managers. We still we'll bring them in, but everything else, it's all Zoom.
Thank you. Fernando.
Yeah, so here at Amazon, no interview is required. When you fill out your application and you pay us a visit on amazon.com/IE-hourly-jobs, it'll direct you to our page, amazon.force.com, where you can go ahead and apply to any location that you're interested in. When you apply, you do go through a behavioral question assessment along with a stimulation of what you may be possibly doing once you are in the job. Now, that is a pass or a fail type of assessments. If you pass, then you will get invited to come to one of our hiring events where we will go ahead and administer a drug test, and we will go ahead and initiate your background check. And then if all that works out, and you like the contingent offer that we are offering you on the day of the event, then you just get processed through. In 2 weeks turnout, you will start your first day within Amazon. So there really is no interview process. It's just a matter of you passing that behavioral assessment and that stimulation once you are applying for the job.
Awesome.
Thank you.
I was just going to say that we do have a question in the chat, but you know what, right before I read that, I know we kind of skipped over, is it possible to have you three kind of just, I know we said where you're working from, but if you can briefly kind of give some of your background. I think we kind of missed that at the beginning. And if someone didn't read the website, then they may be like, okay, what is your role? So if we can do that right before I get to the question from the chat. We'll start off with Thea. You're on my left side, so we'll start off with you. I'm sorry about that.
All right, no problem. You know me now, Thea Bruzdzinski. I'm with Dignity Health. I am the TA manager for the Southwest Division, which includes the Central Coast as well as Nevada.
My name is Fernando. Been with Amazon for a little over 7 years. I've been in the staffing recruiting department for now a little over 2 years. I cover all of the Inland Empire as well as the Coachella Valley region.
And my name is Sergio Baez. I'm with the Walt Disney Company. I've been with Disney for 15 years. I sit in a role of what they consider a global partnerships role. So work with a lot of global partners, third parties, to do promotions, product placements, and things of that sort. I'm also, I'd mention, an educator as well. So in my free time, I have a huge passion to connect the college or young professional population and build bridges for them into big organizations like Disney. So and that's been a huge passion of mine. As I mentioned before, I'm a business professor for PCC, Pasadena City College, LMU, and then Cal State Long Beach as well. And that's all my free time. And then I'm also, just because it's worth mentioning, a huge passion for mentorship. I'm one of the founding members of an internal employee resource group at Disney, which it's a Latinx-burg. For me, there's a huge passion of making sure that there's a lot, especially nowadays during this time, just making sure that there's diversity and inclusion within our organization. So I'm also developed a huge passion for that. And one of my main goals sitting on that leadership team, and as being a co-founder of that employee resource group, is to fill that pipeline with more diversity. So as I'm a hiring manager looking for ways and advising our recruiting teams on how do we fill that pipeline with more diversity so that the talent within the organizations mirror our audience and our consumers. I think that's so important to be an authentic organization or authentic brand, is you have to fill the executive positions and talent to mirror that of the world. So I just want to make mention of that because it's near and dear to my heart.
Perfect. No, 100% agreed. Thank you, you three, for being here. Sergio, I know we joked when you first joined us on the board. It's like, well, where do you have time to sleep? Because I know you're involved in so many things. So we've had several questions come up through the chat. So I'd like to kind of start off the first one because we're talking COVID. So I think this is an interesting one. I haven't heard this one, but the question is from Shelby McIntyre. I had a client recently ask if they should include the fact that they are COVID vaccinated on their LinkedIn and or application materials, such as a resume. Would it benefit a candidate to promote their vaccinated status? What are your thoughts?
For me, I would say no. That is something later on in the hiring process. I know for healthcare, we're offering COVID vaccines to all our new hires. So it would be like saying, hey, I got the flu shot this year, so no.
Fernando?
Yeah, same here within Amazon. It doesn't really apply to any of our basic qualifications or anything like that. So it wouldn't be necessary.
Perfect. Sergio, anything else to add on that one?
Yeah, I would just say it's a very personal decision whether or not you have the vaccination. And I think the workplaces now are already putting measures in place where there's, at least at Disney, there's caps as to how many folks can go into the office starting in the summer. So I think there's already safeguards already in place. So there's probably no benefit. I would use the space on your resume for something more relevant.
Perfect. So sticking on that theme, the next question is from Elizabeth. It's what employment trends are you seeing with COVID? So she imagines that COVID has impacted all companies. So, and what trends have you seen or ways of doing things differently because of the pandemic? And you guys could just, however you want. I'm not sure if there's one might have a little bit stronger, but Thea, if you'd like to start.
Sure. Well, I think we learned how to Zoom. That was one of the first things. Everything was in person before. In the hospital, we're kind of touchy-feely people. We need to see the face and all that good stuff. So it was a huge curve for us, even for some of our leaders to say, okay, I guess I'm going to have to interview on Zoom. So that was a huge change for us. Not having in-person meetings, that was another. And that we basically told people, okay, now it's time to go home. You're going to have to work from home, and how to shift that mindset from working in an environment where you have, you talk all the time to your coworkers, and now you're kind of isolated, and making sure that they felt that they're still part of a team. That was definitely, I think we still struggle there too.
Agreed. Yes. Fernando.
So one of the trends that we noticed in our market is that people are afraid to come to work at Amazon. As you can imagine, right? We are in a warehouse that houses one of our biggest facilities, up to 7,000 people in one facility, which caused a lot of hesitancy for people to come and apply with us, just because they were uneducated or not informed of all of the safety procedures and placements that we have to prevent anybody from either being sick or coming in sick. At Amazon, everybody that comes in through the doors will have PPE offered to them, whether it's a mask, gloves, sanitizers, and they will leave with the same PPE being offered to them as well. Everybody gets temperature checked all stations are 6 feet socially distanced from one another. We do have rapid COVID-19 testing on site at every single facility. So that way you can, get tested once a week, twice a week, 3 times a week, 5 times a week if you choose to. So there's a lot of different mechanisms in place within the Amazon facility that will have everybody socially distant. So that way everybody is at a way lower risk working at an Amazon facility.
Perfect. Awesome. Sergio.
Yeah, what's really interesting is that at Disney, and I work in the corporate office, so it's going to be very different than what they do at the parks. I can speak very briefly on that piece. But as you can imagine, Disney, as well as many other organizations, very collaborative. And so initially, for the most part, working from home was really always frowned upon, not frowned upon, but it wasn't highly encouraged. But I think over the past year, things are getting done. And there's this level of trust now that we've established that allows for folks to be more flexible with their work schedules. I think the world threw us a curveball, right, with the pandemic and having children at home. I think there's just a lot to juggle. And to have gone through what we've gone through, it's like almost like a boot camp. I think not just for Disney, but for many other organizations, there's going to be a willingness to be flexible with hours and we have people flying out to their hometowns in the East Coast. So they have to, they can wake up a little later, but they also have to, work later hours in their time zone. So this whole notion of flexibility, this notion of work-life balance means more than it did before. And so I definitely see it going in the right direction, in that direction in regards to just work-life balance.
Perfect. There's a few more questions in the chat, but Jackie and John, I want to check in with you first. If you have any other additional questions for our panel.
Absolutely. So Fernando kind of touched on this just a little bit, but with the other panelists, are you testing as a part of your interviewing process any type of skills and or personality tests, assessments? Do you guys implement that in the process?
Hi, Rosalinda.
Hi, I've been here all along. I just was doing some stuff behind the scenes.
Oh, okay.
Okay.
You're right in front. Oh, there you go.
There we go. Did you guys hear the question?
Yeah, I can go. I can go.
Yeah.
I would say, again, the vaccination's a very personal decision. So it's not something that's required or a requirement. So I think that was a question, right, Jackie? I think I answered.
No, the question was, as a part of your interviewing process, a lot of companies do assessment tests. Fernando had mentioned it a little earlier. Or any other, the folks on the panelists, do you guys implement any type of behavioral screening questions, testing as part of your interviewing process?
Yeah, I would say for us at Disney and the corporate side or the division I work for, no, we do not do that.
Okay.
I have seen things, and depending on what level of a position, there are you're given a case study or you're given some sort of business scenario, and you have to come and present how you would solve for it, and that's based on how a manager wants to hire. And sometimes that's the interview process, is a candidate to come to the table with a presentation on how you would. And I see that a lot in sales as well, because I come from a sales background too, is employees are given, or candidates are given a scenario, and they come to the table as if they were pitching that to solve for that.
Awesome.
Okay.
Any comments?
I have a question for Sergio. Sergio, you said you have 200 resumes that you go through. All right. How do you go through those resumes? There is a saying that people will review a resume for 6 to 10 seconds. What is your time span?
I can attest by what I mentioned earlier. I don't have much time to work with, so that's why I really need to rely, and sometimes I need to go back to our recruiting team to say, hey, can we refine the filters and just say, hey, this is what I'm looking for. And you're right, like I can attest to that. Like I literally glance over these resumes 6 to 10 seconds the most. And again, what I really look for, depending on the position I'm hiring for, if it's entry level, which is understood that not many candidates will have a lot of experience, specifically in the world that I'm in, as far as marketing and entertainment. So for me, it's about looking whether or not these freshly in the market professionals have had leadership. So if there's any touch of leadership within their resumes, anything that shows that they're proactive, so they're community leaders, they held leadership positions in school. So that's one of the things that I really tell my students is that start early and get leadership opportunities. Like, even though it's not paid, like, be a leader in your fraternity, be a leader in the community, be a leader in something you're really passionate about, because that's what, at least in my opinion, what's going to stand out the most for an entry level position that I'm looking to fill.
Thank you. Lewis.
Yeah, so we got one in the chat that says, has eliminating, this is for Fernando, has eliminating the interview process worked in the hiring process for Amazon? So it is different. You had mentioned that. So I'm going to be curious as well.
Yeah, absolutely. So back in 2008 to 2014, we did an in-person interview process where we would have people come in. We would just simply ask them like 2 questions. What experience do you have? Do you feel comfortable lifting and pulling 49-pound packages or less? But in the past, we were in a green market, which meant that everybody wanted to work at Amazon. And so we would have lines out the buildings where candidates would be waiting up to 2 hours just to come in through this simple process. And so instead, that is where we converted everything to amazon.force.com, where somebody can apply, go through that same process of interviewing through an assessment, through a job stimulation. And that is where we were able to identify the talent that we could move forward to come to our hiring events, to do the drug test, the background check. And that right there, completely eliminated that, I would say, negative experience that somebody probably might have had wanting to come into Amazon. And now they're doing that in the comfort of their home. And so when they come to the hiring event and they're doing the pre-employment contingency processes that they need to do, now they're only coming in for 30 minutes at a time. And so that is why all of a sudden our process had changed, is just for the better of the candidate wanting to apply here with Amazon. And as we know, Amazon is a super customer-centric company that starts with the customer experience first and then works their way backwards. And that's why we transitioned to going from in-person to now virtual.
Awesome. Thank you, Fernando, for that info. And Martha Leva, thank you for asking that question. Definitely was a great one. Jackie, would you like to go with the next one?
Sure, absolutely. So Thea, are you using behavioral interview questions to your candidates?
We are not. We are not.
Is it more traditional that you're using?
More traditional, more behavioral based interviews when they come in for interviews. And we're looking at the job description, what the requirements are to what's on their resume.
Okay, awesome. So to piggyback on that, then do you utilize any type of assessment? If you're using traditional questions and not necessarily behavioral questions, are there any type of other testing tools that are used to kind of carve out that?
No, we're still in the early 90s, early 80s. So, we're healthcare. We haven't quite caught up to everybody.
Well, and I think that's a good point that you're bringing out, because with healthcare, I mean, you are definitely, it's a very personable type of position. Mm-hmm. So sometimes you can't really get a good grip on that person through assessments that's done online or done virtually. So I can respect why the healthcare industry may be a little bit more different because of just the clientele in terms of patients that you're working with.
Very true. Awesome. I'm going to share a little story that during our COVID clinics, we had so many temporaries in. We actually hired a bunch of temps, didn't even meet them. We just said, come on down, and we actually ended up hiring like 5 people from that event because they were so good with the individuals in the cars. They had patience. It was really an amazing experience.
Awesome.
Which is
Awesome.
out of
Thank-
your traditional ways.
Yeah, awesome. Thank you. John?
Yeah, I have a question. This is, again, is I think for all three of you. How can all our attendees here in the job development field, we work with clients in their transition from school or work to other future employment opportunities. So how can we best help you? What sort of advice can you give us and our attendees here? How can we help you to help our students to be prepared to meet with you? I guess that's the best way of putting it. Sergio, do you want to start on that one?
Sure.
Or did I say it correctly?
What's that? My name?
No. How can we help our students prepared to apply for positions at your organizations?
Yeah, you know what? That's an interesting question. I mean, because it's, it's a loaded question. Here's the thing that and I had a personal experience actually, is networking. I can't express that enough. Like I don't know. It's opened so many doors for me. So it's a spoke in the wheel of the hiring process is to go out there, and it's like the journey. Because one thing that I see often is that for Disney, I see candidates just applying to everything. Like there's no focus. So it's really identifying what the candidate's looking for and then honing in on that. So it's going through that exercise of what is your career North Star? Like, what does that look like? And you can do that through many ways. Like there's, self-assessments you can do. And then there's also courses that I've seen out there. There's also a way of just looking at job descriptions, and you're like, wait a minute, that's a great job description. So it's focusing, and then it's also, once you start focusing, is outreach or networking with people in your LinkedIn to say, hey, that's a great position you're holding. I'd love to learn more. So I guess that's the biggest piece of advice, is to focus and then network. Those are the kind of my big two pieces there.
Thank you. Thea, how can we help Dignity prepare our students to apply for positions with you guys?
Sure. I do know that we do have a lot of partnerships with many of the schools. That's one, but I think getting in front of those students to prepare them better to go into real work experience, meaning, preparing themselves for interviews, resume writing, and that, where, as Sergio said, don't apply to every rec that you see, and be sure that you read what's on those recs, because sometimes we don't necessarily get candidates that really meet those minimums. And then there's others that we've, pulled through, but we've ended up changing the changing, like, I'll give a good example is some of our surge techs that come from Pasadena College, a couple of different colleges, and they're working in facilities, and they've really become a partner. So we've actually realized, hey, this is a good way of hiring people into, because they're doing their internships there. So we've changed that job description. So there's a lot of things that we would like, to help. As I said, we've got so many retirees, and there went the knowledge base. So, and we're looking for partners on training. Some of the electronics. We have a lot of electronics in healthcare that we can't find that. We can't find painters, electricians, all that good stuff.
Okay. Fernando.
Yeah, so for Amazon, we want to make sure that you have your work authorization documents ready. And you can find your work authorization documents and what becomes applicable. If you go onto google.com and you just research, work authorization documents for I-9. And the reason why we want you guys to make sure that you guys have those ready, it's because we do have a couple of candidates that come in that do not have their work authorization documents ready, and we're not able to employ them because we cannot complete their I-9 process and validate that they are authorized to work here in the United States. So first and foremost, make sure that you have your work authorization documents ready. Make sure that you read the list of what is applicable to complete your I-9, and just make sure that you have all of that ready. Second would be our text messaging campaign. If you're interested in learning about Amazon or Amazon jobs and what type of opportunities we have, and you're somebody that's always on the go, super busy, don't have time to sit down on your laptop and research jobs, text Amazon to 77088. That way we can go ahead and text you with what type of opportunities we have open and available. When you fill out the text messaging campaign, it'll ask you for your zip code. So that way we send you job postings of 15-mile radius of your zip code. So that way we're not, sending you jobs all the way in LA when you live somewhere like in Temecula kind of thing. So that's one way that you can do it. Another way is by visiting us on amazon.com/IE hourly jobs. That is our main landing page where you are going to get informed of all the positions we have available in the area, down to what sign-on bonuses we have. Right now we have a $3,000 sign-on bonus for our airport facility in San Bernardino, which is one of our new airport business lines that we're introducing here at Amazon. And then as well as referral bonuses, where anybody that comes into Amazon, if you know somebody that works for Amazon, you can let us know and we can give them $120 just for referring you. And then we also just have, $1,200 right now happening in San Bernardino. So if you're interested in joining Amazon and you want to make a little extra money on the side while learning, right now is a really good opportunity to pay us a visit on amazon.com/IE hourly jobs. But, if you don't want to know all that, if you're like, I just want to apply to the job, get this done and over with, then visit us on amazon.force.com, register, create a profile, look at all the different positions that we have on there. We'll give you a lot of the same information as far as what positions are offering sign-on bonuses. But those are all the different mechanisms that we have in place to give you guys the information and the resources that you guys need, so that way you guys can do one of our hiring events.
Fernando, can you talk about your career choice? Because we're partnered with Amazon for the career choice. And I think it's a wonderful program. And I think it would be great if they heard about that.
Oh, it's one of my favorite programs here that we offer at Amazon. I've taken advantage of it. I know so many people here have taken advantage of this program. So Career Choice Program is a 95% tuition program assistance that we offer here at Amazon. You have to be employed with us for at least 1 year. After that 1 year, you are able to go online to our internal website, Amazon Career Choice, and you're able to see over 150 different opportunities that we have where you can leverage your experience within Amazon or outside of Amazon. Like one of them, Thea, being in the medical industry. We have some for pharmaceutical reps, we have some for phlebotomy. Amazon pays 95% of that tuition for that applicable program, and you walk away with that tuition, with that degree or certificate. And say, for instance, if you apply it to an organization outside of Amazon, if you choose to leave Amazon, you take that certificate or that degree with you. Amazon does not take it away from you. It's happened to so many people, so many of my friends, where they're coming in entry level 1 year, then they do phlebotomy, they do pharmacy reps, they do real estate, down to aerospace engineering, all these different types of positions, and then they leave Amazon with a way higher paying position, some starting at $22 an hour. And so, that is one of the programs here that we have within Amazon, where we invest in our employees, because at the end of the day, we want to make sure that we are setting them up for success, not just here within Amazon, but in life.
Yeah, they're cut out. I'm one of the partners with Amazon Career Choice, and their cutoff is $17 an hour. So any job that we have within Dignity that's at 17, we kind of give that to Amazon. It's really a nice little perk for us as well.
Yeah, and that's just like the tip of the iceberg of all of the different benefits and programs here that we have in Amazon. We also have some for like home loans, student loans. Definitely, if you're interested in wanting to use some of the employee discounts or resources that we have here, Amazon, they just help you professionally and personally in all aspects.
Perfect. And I think you make a good point. Thea, thank you for bringing that up with Amazon and partnering with them. Fernando, thank you for sharing but knowing those companies, obviously with our students or clients, and getting them to understand it's just not the job, it's within the company, and what does the company offer? Because it's a 50-50. I mean, we take our positions because some of those fringe benefits or the extra training or, you know, upskilling that those companies offer. So I think it's perfect that you kind of mentioned, and that you guys are partnering together. So that's a really good news. We do got some lots of questions actually in the chat, so I want to get to those. The first one's from Lisette Conway. It's, besides not including keywords, what are common mistakes you see on a resume or application? That's the first question. And then she also follows up, are any of you using ATS, or the automatic tracking systems, to filter through applicants, or is it done manually? I know, Thea, you mentioned that you're not doing that, but you know, if we can, we'll start with Sergio. Keywords, I know you mentioned keywords. You've yet to name drop any of them though. So what are you kind of looking for in general? I know you said kind of that free time and just other things about people individually, even diversity. But what are some of the keywords that you're looking for?
Yeah, definitely leadership. You know, the diversity piece means it's near and dear to my heart. I think it's going to be more important than ever for the business world to have that lens. A few things that I see that probably not encouraged, I would say grade point averages when they're not stellar or mediocre. Like, I just don't think it's worth putting a GPA, because you start opening Pandora's box, right? We don't know everybody's situation kind of as they were going to school. So that's one thing. And then just the simple things like the misspellings, grammar, those kind of things. I mean, those things are a given, but just to proofread the heck out of your resumes is so important, because it could shift the mindset of or could be the deciding factor that, you know, why a hiring manager wouldn't want to bring somebody in. I know.
So for you, you're not using automatic. It sounded like you were looking at it old school, looking at it in print. So you guys don't use anything with ATS.
Yeah, I can't speak to what our recruiting team uses. They may. I'm not familiar with that process. But when it gets to me,
For you,
as a hiring manager, yeah, I don't have any tools outside of just flipping through the resumes.
Perfect. Thea, can you continue a little bit in regards to like keywords? What are you looking for in the medical industry? Something that's going to stand out on a resume.
Yeah, well, I will say that hospitals are looking for customer service. So we're going to look at that. We're going to hone into those keywords there. The other thing is, you know, we do have an ATS system, but it does not put you in ranking order or anything. We still have to go through it one by one, whoever applies, to make sure that they meet the minimums. But we're really looking at, can they do the job? Have they done the job in the past? And for those entry-level positions, you know, we're looking at customer service. We hired a lot of hotel industry people over COVID. So, and it was a perfect match because of their experience.
Perfect.
Yeah, Hilton really stepped up because they laid off a lot of individuals, and we partnered with them to get them started, you know, in the healthcare.
That's awesome. Fernando, do you guys use, are you looking, when looking for a candidate, specific words on a resume, anything that stands out?
Yeah, so for entry-level positions, we don't require an interview. Little to no experience is required. So, you know, that that system right there is pretty straightforward. But I have participated in internal recruiting events here within Amazon, where I've assisted in vetting out and selecting possible candidates who are qualified to become area managers or process assistants. And the three things that I know for a fact that we look into when we are recruiting for those higher level positions is, in your resume, do you have customer obsession? Are you showing me anything that, you know, where I can feel that you're customer obsessed? Also, another thing, ownership. We want to see that you have that principle, ownership within you, and also bias for action. Those are the three principles that you definitely want to make sure that you exemplify within your resume. You want to refrain from using any keywords like helped, right? Anything that is too soft, maybe something a little bit more harder like developed, strategized. things of that nature. And you want to make sure that you keep your resume to a one-page format. Every single section in your experience should be, my recommendation is no more than 4 bullet points, just because we do use an automated tracking system that helps us to first identify who are possible candidates. But once we receive those resumes on hand, we do skim through them one by one, and we kind of just quickly look at them. And so that's where I recommend 3 to 4 bullet points, because at the most, we honestly maybe pay like 60 seconds on the resume. And so we want to, you want to make sure that you are putting your best foot forward in those 60 seconds that somebody is looking at your resume. And then also making sure that you save your resume as a PDF file and not as a Word format or an Excel, whatever type of platform that you use, just because we have an automatic tracking system. It's Amazon Web Service driven. So when candidates or employees submit their resumes and they submit it in a Word document, if they're using a Mac PC, we're using HP PCs. It doesn't translate the same. When we open it up, it just looks like a whole mumble jumble kind of thing. And to be honest, like, we'll try our best to kind of look through it. But when we notice that somebody submits it like a PDF file, we are getting that original format that they are seeing, that we are seeing, we have PDF. It's just so much easier for us to be able to articulate what kind of experience you have and who you are. So one of the biggest recommendations that I have for sure at the end of it all is just to make sure that you save your resume as a PDF file and you are using that. So that way it doesn't, get messed up when you are submitting it in all these different platforms that different recruiters uses.
Perfect. Thank you. Thank you. So we do have lots of questions actually in the chat. I am hoping we can get to it. We're at 11:36. So we're about the 24-minute mark. I will hope we can get through all of these. So the next question is from Rosie. It says, Sergio, in the pandemic, thousands of people were laid off at Disney. What areas were affected the most? And did you rehire some of those that were laid off? I'm not sure if that's something that you may even know, because obviously it's probably different departments, but I'll throw it out there because the question was asked.
Yeah, no, yeah, you're totally right. It's a different department, but from just my personal network of folks that were hired at the parks and had been with the parks for quite some time, as you know, it's public information that Disney furloughed quite a few of those because we don't have guests at our parks. You have less of a need for operational folks. What I'm hearing is that now that the parks are opening, it's a given that those positions that, or those folks that were furloughed or laid off, they're now being called back, just from my personal experience to those that work there. So yeah, that's the intent, is to bring some of those folks back as parks begin to open.
Thank you, sir. Appreciate that.
Yeah.
John, would you like to ask the next question from?
Sure. This is from Shelby. Shelby asks, for all, what is the retention rate of new employees? And do you notice any difference in types of generations? Did you get my question? So this is for all of you. So Thea, do you want to start answering that question?
So can you repeat the question? I have to think this through.
Okay. Right. The question is, what are your organizations or teams doing? Oh, sorry, that's the next one. Where'd it go? Okay, this is from Shelby. What are your organizations or team doing to reduce or eliminate biases in the hiring process?
Okay, so we are going through sensitivity training. Everybody should go through that. That's a 2-hour. We've have now a division definitely focusing on diversity and the workforce, which is really a nice thing for us, all of us. So that's what we're starting to do at Dignity.
Okay. Fernando, it's for all.
Yes.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Okay, yeah, so here at Amazon, one of the things that we've done is our application submission process has gone from in-person to virtual, and that is so that way we eliminate that bias standpoint of who can move forward and who can't. And So when they come to the hiring event, it's a very straightforward process. We're more so just giving you the information that you need to be prepared for your first day of work. And so with Amazon being such an inclusive culture, equal opportunity, anyone and everyone is genuinely accepted here within Amazon, no matter what background, no matter what disability, no matter what, however you identify, everybody here is welcomed. And if there is accommodation that we need to honor, we will definitely make sure that we accommodate before you start your first day of work. And so that is how we have been able to eliminate that.
Thank you. Sergio.
Yeah, very similar to Thea, we go through an extensive training process and ensure that as folks go through the hiring process, or hiring managers provide them tools, or they provide us with tools to make decisions, eliminating some of those biases. So similar thing that Thea's organization goes through.
Very good. Jackie, do you want to answer the next question?
Yeah, and I want to go back to the retention one because that's really important. So Donnie had asked about retention, in that a lot of companies do measure new hire retention. In other words, it does cost a lot of money for companies to have their employees trained, let's say maybe over a 90-day time frame. And a lot of companies measure the retention rate and against the cost. So with that being said, what would you say are your retention rate for new employees in terms of the percentage? Are you retaining? Are you losing? And if you can add to that, do you see a difference between generations? Are you noticing that, your newer, younger employees maybe are leaving faster? Is there any type of similarities in regards to retention and how that affects your business?
I can go for that one. I will tell you, our first year is pathetic. As far for TA, I might as well just put rocks in a bag, because it coming in comes out as quick as it goes. So, and I know just recently I was at a meeting with some of our hospital presidents, and I said, we have to do something about retention because it's ridiculous. And it makes talent acquisition's job difficult. So, so we're going to be changing up some things, and hopefully, if you invite me back next year, I can say we've improved we're at 22% first year turnover, and that's high.
Right. Yeah.
So,
anyone else? Fernando, you want to comment on that?
Yeah, so as far as like our retention goes, I think that there's always an area of opportunity for Amazon to, work on the culture inside the building. Here at Amazon, we're constantly insisting on the highest standard. So retention for us is something that we look very closely within, and we make sure that if there's any areas of opportunity for us to better the culture of the Amazon environment, we make sure that we spread that in all platforms, such as recruiting, staffing, the internal culture within the FCs. And how we do that is by having different classes, leadership principle classes, leadership classes for all of our leaders, anybody that holds a management leader role within Amazon. So that way we are being educated and constantly informed about the different diverse inclusion cultures that we are experiencing, especially, as we are going through time and stuff, and we are noticing all of the different changes in our culture, in our political systems, everything that is happening. Amazon is continuously informing us and educating us, so that way we are sympathetic, we are empathetic, and we are sensitive to this inclusive culture that we are continuously promoting and wanting to invite into Amazon.
Awesome. Sergio?
Yeah, I don't have a lot of visibility to retention. I just know as managers, we're always encouraged to have frequent conversations with those that are coming in, with your direct reports, to ensure that that employees feel like they're developing. And so I think that just kind of the angle that I want to approach this question is more so for the employer to, and then also for the employees to force that conversation to have with their management, to make sure that the employee is also getting what they want out of the job. I think when you get kind of that conversation going, you're managing expectations appropriately, and I would assume retention rates would improve at that point in time, if they're seeing eye to eye.
Awesome. Great. Thank you. John?
Yes, my question is from M. Petroni. I hope I pronounced that correctly. I work with high school students who believe that because marijuana is legal in California, they do not have to drug test for employment, or that they will get hired even if they fail. Do you all drug test, and where do your company stand with recreational marijuana? Good question.
So I'll go for that one. So yes, we drug test everybody. We follow the federal guidelines. So if somebody comes back tested positive, then they can reapply in 1 year.
Sergio, do you drug test?
You know what? I'm not so close to that anymore, so I do not know that.
That's a good way out, man. Fernando.
Yeah, so we do drug tests, and same like Thea, we follow federal state guidelines. However, we do also just recently are accepting cannabis medical recreational cards. So if you have your cannabis medical recreational card, you will have to present that at the time of the hiring event, or somebody will be reaching out to you after your drug test submission to provide that information. So you can always bring it to the event, but if not, somebody is going to be reaching out to you after to just make sure that you have that medical recreational card. If you do have it, then you bypass the drug test within Amazon.
Okay, good. Jackie.
Luis, you see anything in the chat box that you want to?
Oh yeah, no, there's tons of them.
We're coming in, yeah.
So the one that I got one from Sarah Chavez, and it's, what items have you found? This is going back to resumes. What items have you found listed on resumes that should not be on resumes? And then a second question, two-parter. Do you notice that more employees are applying via Indeed and other platforms versus your website? So first, the resumes, what's been on there that shouldn't be on there, and then just platforms, other applying platforms. Thea, we'll start with you. You're on my left here.
Okay, so I'll be honest here. I don't see too many of that. Because otherwise we'd be pulling it out and passing amongst the TA group, to be honest with you, as, oh, did you see this one? But no, we haven't seen any of that. So you guys are doing a good job there. And then the second part was
the platforms. Do you use like an Indeed or any other platforms to showcase your position?
Majority of our hires are coming through Indeed.
Okay. Perfect. Fernando, how about yourself? Anything that should not be on resumes, and then platforms, or how do you use that recruitment tool? Do you have everything's funneled through your website, or do you use other platforms?
No, so everything is funneled through our websites. But like I mentioned, especially with these upper management positions, this is the part where we do get selective and we look at these resumes. And so one of the things that I would highly recommend is making sure that you are identifying your hard skills and you are placing those in your resume first. Then leaving the soft skills either at the bottom of the section, at the end of the bullet, like, the third or the fourth bullet point or something. Because like I mentioned before, I only take like about 60 seconds, to be honest with you, with resumes and when I'm looking for, and, I make it to the first, the second, maybe the third bullet point, but I'm not really looking at the fourth, the fifth, and the sixth bullet point. So just making sure that you're able to identify what your hard skills are, putting on those, and then your soft skills, kind of using those to maybe kind of just add a little fluff in there if you need to, if something is kind of looking a little bit short, but definitely communicating and connecting with somebody who has resume or good resume experience building. So that way they can also help you identify what your hard skills are and what your soft skills are. But, once again, the internet is just such a brilliant tool. YouTube is such a brilliant tool. I just jumped into TikTok. I didn't know TikTok can help me with my resumes and my interview skills. And,
wow.
I am just taking off with that one right there. So, there's a lot of different ways that you can definitely educate yourself, inform yourself, and learn different experiences from other people. So definitely, utilize the internet to kind of help you build your resume.
Sounds good. Sergio, how about yourself, sir, in regards to resumes or platforms? Probably platforms sounds like you already get them funneled by the time they get to your level. So maybe just focus on the resumes of what should not be on there that, a candidate should be focusing on instead of using that real estate to put keywords.
Yeah, one thing that I see as a bit of a mistake, and there's a lot of agencies and companies that monetize on this or capitalize on the fact that you throw your resume to somebody and then they fancy it up to make it look, stand out, make it to stand out. One of the things I've seen that's a bit of a head scratcher is when, I'm assuming that these agencies or these designers do this, is I don't know if you've seen this, a barometer of your skill sets to say, my strengths are this, and maybe I'm not as strong in Excel. Like, get away from what you're weak at and focus on your positives. Or even if you're mediocre at a skill set, don't highlight that. So I see a lot of resumes where they have barometers of their skill sets to show what their pros and cons are, and I think that's one of the biggest mistakes. The other thing I want to mention from a platform perspective is that Disney definitely focuses on their own website. However, the recruiting team gives us links to promote it on social media, which kind of goes back to my other point, making sure that your LinkedIn profiles are, the candidates profiles are well developed and refined, because a lot of the recruiting happens through these networks. And so that's a lot of times I have folks coming to me through LinkedIn because I posted a job, and then I meet with them outside of HR and I said, hey, Disney HR, bring this candidate in, because I've already screened them for a lack of a better term, but just wanted to make mention of that.
No, that's perfect. The networking, very, very important. But I have not seen any of those resumes with the barometers, but I agree that why would you want to kind of measure those things and definitely like focus on the strengths. No, that's funny. Jackie, you're up next, ma'am.
And awesome. And there's a question from Chalet. I hope I pronounced that correctly.
Perfectly.
Is that right? I wasn't sure if I did it or not. Okay, great.
Great
Awesome.
job.
Awesome. Okay. So if a job seeker meets the requirements for a position, but is an ex-felon, do you give them a chance? And we all know that on the applications, they're taking that off, that lingo's not on there any longer. But in your companies, do you give an ex-felon a chance if they meet the minimum requirements? And anyone can answer that question. Amazon in particular.
It just depends, honestly. It depends on the offense. It depends on the background. I've seen people come in that, me, myself, I was kind of a little concerned of, just because with what they expressed to me, I was kind of like, I don't know, you know what I mean? Like that's kind of a tricky one. I know it happened about 7 years ago. Let's try it. Let's see what happens, and then I see them at their first day of work, so it just really depends. I mean, I know for sure anything violent, theft, will boot you out of it. I mean, as you can imagine, we work with so many people around us, and you work with so many products. In certain positions, you're going to be working with high volume products, such as fashion jewelry, gold, things like that. So, some of those things are definitely going to vet you out. But I always tell everybody, just try, apply. The worst thing that's going to happen is they're just going to reach out to you for more information. And then from there, they're going to let you know either yes or no kind of thing.
Awesome, great. Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Thank you.
Anyone else want to comment?
I have a question from T. Lily. Question is, do you have any partnerships with high school graduates after they've completed their high school diploma? Who would like to answer that question?
So the only partnerships that we have with high schools is where we attend the job fairs, whether they're virtual or in person. We have a community engagement outreach department here that will go ahead and reach out to high schools, community colleges, things of that nature, and try to see if there's an opportunity for us to go there, educate, influence, kind of like similar to what we're doing now, but obviously speaking to a high school body, and just ensuring that we give them the resources and tools and knowledge that they need to apply with us. that's the partnerships that we have. I'm not sure if that's what you're looking for, but do we directly hire right out of high school? Yes, just as long as you're 18 and over and you have your high school diploma, you can go onto our website and apply.
Perfect. I think we lost Thea for a little bit, so I'm not sure if it was an internet or like a connection. So hopefully we get her back on. We are at the 11:54 mark, so we're about 6 minutes away. I know we're still kind of going through, all three of us are going through chat, and I appreciate Rosalinda also getting us this information, because then we start losing it out of chronology. So I apologize if we did not get to your particular question. I do want to mention that at the end, I'm going to put up the slides, and on the website, we'll make sure we have contact information for anybody. So if anybody wants to reach out directly, we didn't for some reason get to that question, and it's a burning question, and you're like, I need to ask Sergio this, or I need to ask Fernando or Thea, then please feel free to reach out just in case we didn't get to it. So I apologize. 5 minutes left. I will start off with a question. I guess we'll just go one at a time with Jackie and John. So the next question here, let me make sure I'm on the right one because I don't want to be repetitive.
Yeah.
I thought I captured them all, so if I
you
missed
get 'em?
any, my apologies.
Okay, no worries. Well then, Jackie, do you have any questions? I want to make sure that
Well, yeah, I saw one that came through. As far as OJT, do you any of you offering any OJT for clients that were, they can come in and the organization will pay your firm a certain dollar amount for a certain length of time? Any OJT offered in Amazon or Disney?
Sorry, what's OJT, Jackie?
I'm sorry, I was just gonna say, and an OJT, just gonna say that OJT would be like an on-the-job training. So a lot of companies, organizations have these in place where they can provide candidates to you that they will take the first maybe 12, 16 weeks, let's say, and provide you, they're on their payroll, so per se, but we provide the training, or you would provide the training for them. And so it's just a way of just helping them get back into the workforce. And so a lot of companies are open to these programs because, again, they're saving money for the first 12 weeks, if you will. But at the same time, it gives you a chance to see if this candidate or this employee would actually work out. And you do have the option to keep them on board once the OJT on the job training program is over. Is that something that Amazon offers or Disney?
So it's not something that Amazon offers. When you come in to Amazon on your first date, you will go through a training program that is about 2 weeks. If you seem to be advancing pretty quickly, the training program will be a lot less. But internally, we do have a program that's called Career Skills, where we actually help internal associates, work on their resumes, maybe learn a new skill in Excel, in PowerPoint, in Word. We do have those type of things to where that way an entry-level associate can gain that experience, that knowledge, that confidence to apply for those higher level roles. So that way, when they are in the interview process, they have a certain skill set for that role that they've already, kind of educated themselves in. So I think that's kind of in the same lines, Jackie.
Yeah, well, I think it may be something that may be new for you, but I think this is you guys that out there that's on the call that have the OJT in place, Amazon could be a good avenue. I was very opposed to it at one point because I was not clear what it actually meant. But when it was presented to me, it was saying we've got a candidate or a client that I think would be great in your organization. They have great skills, and we're willing to take a chance on them, on us. We'll pay for them to work for your company for the first, X amount of days or X amount of weeks. And it gives you the chance to keep them once that program's over. You can see if you want to keep that person. And I was opposed to it, but honestly, that's a great segue and a great cost savings for an employer in terms of retention to hire on someone that is a part of an on-the-job training program because you're not paying them per hour. So it's kind of a safety net for the employer.
Okay.
So
I'm going to jump in.
Uh-huh.
I'm sorry, I'm going to jump in because we are now at 11:59. So we've got less than 30 seconds to go. First of all, so let me thank all our panelists on behalf of CPA. Want to thank you so much for your time, your expertise, your knowledge, and your input. We've had some wonderful questions come from our attendees. So many thanks on behalf of all of you. I just want to have a quick question. It's up to each one of you if you want to answer it. Interviewing can be very stressful for the applicants, probably as well as you guys. Can you really briefly tell us what is your most humorous interview that you've had? I want to end up on kind of on a fun note. So you want to start off, Fernando? What is the funniest interview you had?
The funniest interview that I've had, I would say, you know, as bad as it sounds, I don't know, like when I'm not prepared, I come into an interview. One time I was not really prepared at all for an interview. I came in and I completely bombed it. You know, I was all over the place. And, you know, I just kind of thought it was kind of funny because, you know, in an interview, like I just thought that I had I just thought that I had it like that, where I can just go in and wing it. You know what I mean? I thought like, you know, I went in as like, if I'm like, you pretend that you're a celebrity and pretend that, you know, they're just asking you these kind of questions or whatever, you know, but that mind frame did not work. It was advice that I got from somebody last minute. But yeah, I went in, bombed it, you know, felt like a complete failure. But one thing that I definitely did learn is that you cannot wing an interview. You have to practice. You have to get everything down. And so, yeah.
Thank you. Thea, I understand you're back. What is your?
I am back. I'm back.
Yes, nice to see you.
So my strangest interview was with an experienced PACU nurse who decided to come in and bring her dog to the interview. So I ended up dog sitting while she was doing the interview. So that was mine.
Thank you. Sergio.
Mine's not that funny, but it's one that stands out the most. But I would say there's this young woman that came in probably like 20 minutes late, and she was like sweating profusely, like her makeup was smeared, and she continued to tell me that she had overslept and that she was late to the interview because she was just giving every excuse in the book, and it just really derailed the conversation. At one point in time, we just kind of cut the interview short and we're like, you know, you're not the candidate for us. So that's the one that sticks out the most for me.
Okay, so we are now just 2 minutes overview. Again, I want to thank all of you on behalf of California Placement Association. We've learned a lot. You've given us a great lot of information so we can help our clients put together so they can present themselves professionally to you guys and whoever. So on behalf of all of us, I want to thank you. I'm going to hand it.